guys, welcome back to our channel. Thank you guys for joining us once again. This week we are going to be doing a 20-ounce modern curve. We got the cup from Makerflow. We'll link that down below. We're going to be doing something new, a tooled leather peekaboo. If you like what you see, give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Let's get started. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We're going to get started by cutting out the tooled leather decal. I did cut a 12 by 12 square of this particular pattern, and I'm going to weed that all out just so that I have plenty to work with. I'm going to use my contact tape to take small sections of this pattern and place on my cup. I'm going to work in small sections because it makes it a lot easier on that modern curve. And I'm going to place these decals on the cup in the exact manner that I take them off that backing paper. So wherever those particular patterns or shapes are on the backing paper that we weeded, I'm going to remove those and place them in pretty much the exact same place while on the cup. Now you'll see here that I'm not placing that entire sheet of transfer tape down onto the cup at one time. Because we're working on that curve, I am going to do it in sections. Just like I'm only pulling off sections from the backing paper, I'm only going to lay sections down on the cup. This allows you to have better working maneuverability with those decals. You can lay things down flatter or smoother without bumps, bubbles, and any wrinkles. You just lay the section down and then very carefully, because there is no epoxy between the paint and the decal, just be very careful when you pull that transfer tape back up that you don't pull any of that paint up along with it. So I'm just going to lay the small sections down, and this one is going to go over that curve. So here in just a moment, you'll see me work. I'll push down a little bit, then I'll pull the transfer tape up some, then I'll push down a little bit more, and I'll even get my tool out to make sure that I burnish that really good onto the cup. So we're just going to work in the small sections. And if you don't press down on the vinyl, a lot of times you can pull it up and lay it back down without messing anything up. And here you'll see I'm going to place that little flower at the top there, just like it would be on the backing paper. And then I'm going to work my way around the whole cup. Now I went ahead and fast forwarded that and did it off camera so that you didn't have to sit here for the whole thing. And I just laid all of that around the entire cup. Now we're going to add the alcohol ink. And I believe that I used Latte. I'll double check and I'll be sure to link that down below. It is a Ranger, a Tim Holtz alcohol ink. And I just put that all over the entire cup. And I used my makeup brush there to smooth that out. Make sure that it blended well. And you just want a full coverage over all of the white space. You don't want any white showing. It's not as important to get the white decal covered. It's more important to make sure that the actual white paint is covered. But it is easier to just go ahead and cover everything. And then once we get all of it colored, we're then going to remove part of that alcohol ink from the decal itself so that it's not quite as dark. To do that, I'm going to use another makeup brush, and this one is more for eyeliner, and I solely use these makeup brushes for crafting. I do not use them for anything else. And you're just gonna have a little cup there of alcohol, just plain alcohol. I believe it's 70%. And I just dip the brush in the alcohol, dab it off on that paper towel, and then I'm removing some of the alcohol ink from the cup so that the decal is lighter. So the only part that I'm removing is the alcohol ink on the raised up decal. The decal does set up a little bit higher than the cup itself. So we're just going to remove the alcohol off of that raised decal. And I'm going to do this all the way around the entire cup. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to be able to see what we're going to do for the next step. And it's okay if you remove some of it off of the cup. In the end, you're not really going to be able to tell. So here I've done most of the cup. I didn't want you to have to set through the whole thing. I'm going to do this last flower here. And we're going to use the, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but Fiber Castle. Like I said, I'm not sure if I said that right. It's like the texture paste, and it's in the color copper. My client wanted a distressed leather look, so that's what I tried to go for. So what I did was I just painted this texture paste all over the cup on the decal itself. That's why we removed the alcohol ink, so that you could see that texture paste. And then I added a couple of layers of epoxy and let it dry 8 to 12 hours. Made sure it was really smooth. Do not sand. If you need to sand, do another layer of epoxy and then paint. So I did matte black first, and then the metallic gold, and then the lagoon. And then I also went over the lagoon with the sea glass. And this is what it looked like after I painted it. And I did add that little decal there that I'm actually going to remove now, so that you'll see that tooled leather underneath. I forgot to video applying that decal, but I just took a monogram decal and placed it on the cup before I spray painted it. I spray painted the cup and then removed the decal so that you see the tooled leather underneath. Now I'm going to take 100% acetone and some paper towels that I have on hand, and I'm going to use that acetone to remove paint in certain spots. You want this to have a distressed look, so just have fun with it. Don't try to make it perfect, because then it won't look right. So just take off the paint in random areas all the way around the cup. I like to do the bottom rim, the top rim, and then I'll go in the main part of the cup and I will take off certain spots. The acetone is going to remove the paint very easily. You'll see it doesn't take much work at all to remove that paint. The acetone is very easy to work with. I don't wear gloves for this because the acetone will eat through the gloves. You can get chemical resistant gloves to wear if your hands or your skin is sensitive to the acetone. That'll help. They do make chemical resistant gloves that you can use the acetone with. I just don't wear gloves because I feel like I can't do what I want to do with the gloves on, and acetone doesn't bother me. I just wash my hands afterwards. I have these special wipes that I use to get that paint off my fingers. I'll try to remember to link those down below as well. And then I'll wash my hands and apply lotion, and I'm good to go. Now I'm going to use the 90% alcohol, and what this does is it shines up and removes the excess paint from where you've already removed the majority of the paint. So this is going to shine everything back up. Remember, acetone takes off a lot of paint really fast, and the alcohol takes off a little paint really slow. So if you remember that, you'll be able to do this without a problem. You can use the alcohol to remove any of that excess paint where you rubbed it off with the acetone and it leaves a residue on that top color. That 90% alcohol will remove that off and make it to where the top color doesn't look as dingy, unless that's the look you're going for. That actually looks really good for some cups. So I'm just going to remove all of that excess paint that I didn't get completely off with that acetone and shine up that epoxy layer really well so that you can see the tooled leather underneath, or that tooled leather look underneath. And the cool thing about doing it this way is that you can do a little bit, switch back and forth between the acetone and the alcohol so that you can get your cup exactly where you want it. And it's really easy if you want to take off a little bit more, so do it slow. Don't do a whole bunch at one time if you've never done it before. That way you can't put it back on, you can always take it off. So do a little bit, look at it, and see what you think. So this is finished, removing all that I want to remove, and we're going to move on to the next step. We're going to use the Prima Art. This is like the 3-piece paint set that's for like the Patina, and I'm only going to use the gold and the blue. The gold and the blue. And I have it's like a dabber chip brush. And I'm going to put the gold on first. And I want kind of a distressed look. I don't want that sea glass and lagoon paint really bright. I want it more muted and more set back. And I want the gold and the blue of this Prima paint to be what you see most when you look at it, so that it kind of looks old. It gives it an aged effect, and it just makes everything come together. It makes all the colors flow together so much better. Now I'm not just dipping directly into that pot of paint and putting it on the cup. I'm getting it out and then dabbing it off in the lid so that I'm not getting globs of paint on my cup, and it's a whole lot easier to work with. That way I can put on a little bit at a time and add layers to it, which also adds to the aged effect. Now this blue is it's a really thick chalky paste, and I did try with the brush at first and I did not like that, so I just used my finger. And I did the same technique, get some out of the pot and dip it in the lid so that I wasn't using too much at one time. And the first little bit, I wanted to just add smudges and hints and shadows of that blue. Again, we're trying to get depth and layering in here so that it looks more, I don't want to say 3D, that's not exactly what I'm going for, but you just don't want it to look flat. So I'm adding some shadowing in with that blue. You'll see it's really light. We're not doing that blue really dark yet. So you're going to get that shadowing in where you want it. And then once the shadowing is in, then you can go back in over that with a deeper, richer, heavier hand on that blue to make it stand out more. And then the shadowing behind it, again, adds to the depth and layering. Now I did sand this after I epoxied it. I did epoxy it one layer and let it dry 8 to 12 hours. And then I sanded it in some spots to make sure that it was smooth, so it does look a little cloudy there. And then we're going to add the white decal over where that where we had removed the decal after we spray painted to make that peekaboo there. We're going to add a white decal over it that has the monogram cut out, and the white will be for the water slide that we're going to put on so that I could see, or we could see the water slide. It needed a white background, and this is the way the customer wanted it. You could also use spray paint and do some quick bursts of spray paint wherever you wanted to put that water slide, and then just after you spray paint it, you could either epoxy over that spray paint, or you can use a clear gloss spray paint and do a couple layers over the white, and that'll gloss it up enough so that your water slide, if you use a clear water slide, will disappear into the background. You do not always have to add a layer of epoxy under the water slide to make the edges disappear. If you get it glossy enough with the gloss spray paint, the edges will disappear that way as well. So that might be a little tip to save you a step. Now, I do not have to have this decal perfect. Like I said, we are putting a water slide over it, but I don't want any huge wrinkles or bubbles in it. So I am using my heat gun to shrink that decal just a little bit to get out the majority of those wrinkles, because you are working on that modern curve and I did want this to be a bit larger of a monogram. I did have to deal with a few wrinkles there. I now have the water slide on. I apologize, I didn't get that on camera. I thought I was recording, but I was not. So I did put it on there, and I'm just rubbing over it to make sure I got all the bubbles out and that it's laying flat. And you can't see those wrinkles underneath it. Now I am going to use some Quick Coat from CCDIY, and I'm just going to paint that on the water slide, let it dry, and do 2 more layers of epoxy, let it dry, and this is the finished product. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And here's the video that we did last week.